A very good morning to all my dear friends. I hope you all are doing good. This is Prashant Mavani and I welcome all of you to StudyIQ. Dear friends, go after your dream no matter how unattainable others think it is. If you go through the work of APJ Abdul Kalam sir, then you will find that he has always emphasized on dreaming, right? And of course, when he talks about dreaming, he is not talking just only dreaming, right? You have to take action as well. And if you have watched this movie called Secret Superstar, right, then it's all about dreams, right? This movie is all about dreams. It is not about the dream of the girl who is a singer in the film, but it is also about the dream of her mother too. And basically dreams, many a times they look unattainable, they look something you can say out of the box, but what it does is that the boundaries that we create, right, the cages that we create around ourselves, with the help of the dream we can cross these boundaries and we can open the doors of the cages. So keep on dreaming, but of course you have to work as well to fulfill your dream. With this, dear friends, please allow me to introduce all of you to our pen drive and tablet courses for different exams like SSC, Bank, UPSC and other government exams. StudyIQ offers pen drive and tablet courses, and if you want to know more about it, all you have to do is check out StudyIQ.com. If you have any further question or queries, you can use the chat support that is available on StudyIQ.com, and you can also give us a call on the numbers that you can see on your screen. Dear friends, the first item that we have is from Japan. This editorial is pertaining to Japan. Yesterday we talked about how Japan, there was a sort of election, right? Early election took place in Japan, and Shinzo Abe, who was here in India a couple of weeks ago or a month ago, he has managed to win this election, and this is going to be his third term for the lower house of Japan, that is known as the Parliament of Japan, is known as Dait, right? So remember this thing as your GK stuff. I think I have asked you a question on this thing as well a couple of weeks or month ago. Anyways, dear friends, now the thing is, if you go back to your papers, past papers, and I'm talking about prelims, then you will find that there were questions coming from West Asia, right? Because West Asia was in news for a long period of time, right? When I say West Asia, I'm sure you know that we are talking about Arabic countries, and we are also taking in Israel and other countries, right? So questions were asked, particularly geographical questions were asked in prelims, but if you observe this year, or roughly speaking 2016 and 2017, then East Asia has been in news for a long time. We know the things that are going on in this part here, things done by North Korea, China, then things going on in Japan and other items. We know that South China Sea and things like that. So what I would recommend all of you to spend good quality time after this map, right? Do spend time, try to look it from every different angle, observe where you can find Tropic of Cancer, right? Whether it is passing from China or not, whether it is crossing from Taiwan or not, which are the other countries in East Asia that are northern side of that are in the north of Tropic of Cancer or in the south of Tropic of Cancer, etc. Then also try to remember the capitals of countries like Mongolia and this North Korea and other countries, right? Basically, let's quickly go through Japan, and the basic things about Japan is that as you can see, it is an archipelago. That means Japan is a country made up of group of islands. You can see it is on the eastern side of Japan you find Pacific Ocean. On the western side you have Sea of Japan, also known as East Sea. Then South Korea is not far from here, isn't it? East China Sea as well. If you go through this map, then you find that this is Sea of Japan. Then you have Yellow Sea here, you have East China Sea here. So these are the things that are important for you to observe, right? On the northern side you find Okhotsk Sea. So these are the important water bodies surrounding Japan. Of course, you know the capital of Japan is Tokyo, and this country is famous for development, for skill, for time management, isn't it? For technological revolution and things like that, and quality. When we talk about Japan, the first thing that comes in our mind when we talk about the products of Japan, the first thing that comes in our mind is the quality and reliability of its product. Dear friends, the other items that we find here, the things that we find here in this editorials, of course the things that we have discussed so far are not mentioned in this editorial, but of course you know it very well that we always try to add some value to the things that are given in the Hindu, isn't it? And this helps, I believe, a lot with your preparation. So the thing is that now we know that North Korea and Japan, North Korea and China, these are the two big problems through which Japan is going through, right? Of course, when we talk about North Korea, then we know the way it is conducting nuclear tests, and it is threatening the existence of Japan, South Korea and USA. So this is a big worry for Japan, because Japan is the only country in the world that has gone through nuclear attack, right? So no other country knows what nuclear weapon or its destructive effects are, right, apart from Japan, because it is the only country. And this took place after during World War II. Japan was part of World War II. It used to be a very aggressive country, but now since this Hiroshima and Nagasaki attack, and since the new constitution, it has adopted a path of peace. And in fact, its constitution as well is sort of termed as a very pacifist constitution, because in its constitution it is clearly given that Japan will never go ahead with producing nuclear weapons. And this is the thing that is or this clause or article is being exploited by countries like North Korea. And China, we know it very well that China and Japan are the biggest trading partner of each other, but they have disputes with each other, historical disputes between them, and also they are contesting for some islands in this part here. So these are the things that are you can say giving a sort of sleepless night to Japan. So this was one of the main reasons why Japan decided to go ahead with an early election, so that if it wants to make any sort of changes, it should have a proper government that is going to stay for a longer period of time. Now if Japan wants to make any sort of constitutional amendment, so just like India, it would require 2/3, or you can say a sort of a special majority, right? So hopefully now, as Shinzo Abe is back, he will try, or his government will try, to make necessary changes in terms of defense. It is also going through some problem, Japan, right? The demand and growth and demand is bit down. It is not doing that well. This is one of the reasons why it is exporting technologies like bullet trains, and it is exporting other things to countries like India and other countries. The Bank of Japan again needs some sort of support, from financial support, or you can say a sort of a hand from government. The taxes at present in Japan are too high. The population is generally speaking, it is a sort of a country of old people, right? And it is substituting this old people with the help of robots. And the whole country, in fact the Prime Minister as well, is looking forward to this 2020 Tokyo Olympics, because it will give a sort of kick, right? This will provide a kick in tourism, in economy and other sector. So that's basically everything about Japan. Moving on to another item, and this is about the things, it is pertaining to basically freedom of expression, you can say, right? Because what is happening, or what we have observed a couple of days ago, we talked about an author whose book was there were threats going on. Some people, some groups threatened him that if he releases his book, then he will face with dire consequences and things like that. Now there is a movie in Karnataka. The name goes with Merkel, right? This movie, the person who is the actor, his name is Vijay. He's a very famous star, not only in India but abroad as well. So his movie is out, and the BJP, of BJP group of Karnataka, state of Karnataka, is not happy about this film. What they are demanding that you should cut down some scenes that are talking about government, Modi government, right? You should also get rid of the scenes that are talking about GST, because the things that you are talking in the movie are not factual, they are not in line with reality. Now the big question is that we know it very well that all movies are work of fiction, isn't it? Even before the movie starts, we see a sort of you can say a sort of explanatory note clearly stating that if there is any sort of if you find any incidents in the movie that are pertaining to any person or relating with a person who is dead or alive, then this is just a coincidence and nothing more than that. So we should not, any party should not take these things, or any group should not take this thing that seriously, right? The other thing is that it is clearly, we have clear laws that if your work, if you're writing, or if your views on social media or via film or something, if this is creating a sort of violence, right? If it is triggering violence in the society, if you are spreading hate speeches and things like that, then of course we have laws to protect it. But we cannot sabotage, or we cannot cut down the scenes from the movie, because there are many things that we see nowadays in the movies which we cannot say used to take place 10 or 10 years ago, isn't it? But now the society is accepting the things that is being catered in the movie. And in fact, the movies are, most of the movies are made, the things are coming out from society, isn't it? The other thing is that couple of weeks, or not couple of weeks, but I think it's been more than somewhere around 6 months ago, right, roughly speaking, there was a sort of violence was also reported during the shooting of a film, Padmavati, right? The famous director, Mr. Bansali, was threatened and attacked, and at that point of time as well, this thing was in discussion that if people keep on doing this thing, then it will impact tourism. There was a wave as well during this Padmavati thing. Mr. Bansali said, or I think the film, there some directors or producers from the film industry said that they will never, or they will not go to Rajasthan if they are being treated like this way. So this thing, action of one group impacts the whole tourism industry, which is not right at all. This impacts the livelihood of many people. With that's basically everything about this editorial. Moving on to another item, and this is written by a former civil servant, because M.K. Narayan was a national security advisor, and we have talked about this thing that whenever we find an article written by former civil servant or current civil servant, then we should pay some special attention to it, because it helps you a lot in your mains answer writing, right? That it helps you in developing your understanding about the things that they are talking about, because these are the people who have worked in the area, right? They have worked on the ground, they know the in and out of the things that they are talking about. So this is that's why it is important to familiarize ourselves with the articles written by civil servants. Now, dear friends, the picture that you can see on your screen, it is many times different words are used. It is called Naxal corridor, or many times it is referred as a red corridor, right? It means the same thing. Red corridor or Naxal corridor means the states or the districts in our country that are affected by left-wing extremism, right? This is the thing. And left-wing extremism is as termed by Manmohan Singh, a former prime minister, as termed by this government as well. It is one of the biggest challenge, right? When it comes to security, internal security, then this is this Naxal thing is the biggest challenge through which our country is going through. And this is one of the main reason, Naxal and left-wing extremism is one of the main reason why we see ourselves, right? Why we see India as among the top countries that are going through terrorist attack. This is considered as a sort of attack on democracy and on the people of our country. So we are ranking somewhere around rank 3, right, after Afghanistan. Iraq, Afghanistan, we are ranked 3 or 4, but we are on top 5 countries when it comes to terrorist attack. And right, dear friends, so basically this article starts with the history. If you read this bit portion here, then you find that it starts with the history of Naxal movement or Naxalbari movement, and how in the early days Chinese Communist Party used to support this Naxalbari movement and things like that. We know that if we go back to the history, then since you can say medieval India, many kings used to take over the jungles, and they applied their own laws, and they restricted the movement of these people living in jungle, forest dwellers, and there were many wars as well that took place between medieval kings and this kingdom of forest. Then later on, when British came, they applied their own new regulations, and the free movement of this people living in jungle were affected by it. Their whole ecosystem and economic system collapsed because of British rule. And later on, when we became a free country, at that point of time as well, we did not pay that much attention to the issues or the complaints of this people living in jungle area, or people dependent directly on the forest. So these are some of the main reasons why this thing got more fuel. This fire got extra fuel, and China was of course ready with more petrol to add in this Naxalbari movement. Now the thing is, earlier on we used to follow this Naxalbari movement, used to follow this Mao movement. Mao, basically what he used to say, or his main revolution, Chinese model, is basically about rural peasantry, right? The poor people, or the laborers of rural area, taking over the countryside, and then later on taking over the cities, and in fact eventually taking over the whole country. And this Ho Chi Minh model is also taking in line, or taking with yourself, not only rural peasantry but also urban peasantry. So these are some basic difference between it, but the main thing is it is not about the theory of this Naxalbari movement and the definition of Chinese communism and things like that. The main thing here is what it is talking about is that this CPI Maoist, this Naxal or left-wing extremism groups are they are having a solid organizational structure, right? They have central committee, and they have powerful military wing as well. They are spread in different parts of our country, and in this way they are connected very well with the grassroots level of their LWE. The other thing is, we have seen recently, this year itself, we have seen that this Naxal groups are capable of conducting severe attack on our country, right? The way they have killed brave soldiers of CRPF and other forces. We know recently, a couple of months ago, we saw nearly 25 CRPF brave hearts were martyred by this Naxal attack, isn't it? So they are capable of severe attack. They have all the sophisticated weapon and things like that, right? They have all this training, and there are some countries that are supporting this thing. There are some people as well in our country who are supporting this thing for various reasons. But anyways, what we can do, or how we can sort them out, at present we can see that there is a sort of steady decline, right, when it comes to their action. And because CRPF, or you can say the central forces, with the help of state forces, right, this is very important when it comes to hunting down this LWE people, right? It is important that the front, or you can say the lead, should be taken by the state police, right? Because it is the state police who knows in and out about the state. They can smell, they can feel the things going on in the state, right? So they know the local language. They can identify or they can discriminate between who is a Naxal and who is not. Of course, this state police should be strongly supported by central forces, right? This is one of the best strategy. And when the cleaning operation is done in, say for example, one particular area, then very soon or rapidly we have to start developmental process as well. For that we have to use the best technology possible, right? We cannot take 6 months just to build a hospital or a small clinic. We have to use quick dry cement. We have to use the latest construction technology, so that whenever any area is cleaned by this police and central forces, we can quickly have some sort of infrastructure, and in this way we can win the heart and mind of the people living in the forest who are till now been fooled by this LWE. So that's everything. And the last thing that I would like to add here is that we have to curb this thing, or as what will happen is that there are some international groups as well. We know it very well, ISIS and Al-Qaeda. They are joining hands with each other, and they are becoming a sort of global, they are working like a global company, like Coca-Cola, right? You find them in every country nowadays. They are using new methods of social media, and they are using this sleeper cell things and new sort of tactics. So they may there are high chances that they may shake hands with this Naxal people, and they may add more sort of teeth to this Naxal group. So we have to curb them. Moving on to another item, and this is about Spain. Now this is, I'm sure, not the first time we are discussing this thing, and for the regular listeners, you would be knowing many things about this Spain, because as you know it, there is a special video as well available on StudyIQ YouTube channel, and this is talking about the history of Spain, and particularly Catalonia, and how the era of General Franco, who was a dictator, and etc, etc, right? The whole timeline, and what should be the solution of this thing, and the stand of European Union and things like that. So if you haven't checked this special video out, it is available both in Hindi and English, so I would recommend all of you to do it. It will help you a lot. The other thing is that as we are here, I would also like to mention that we have, you know, that this is Iberian Peninsula we are talking about. This is Portugal, this is Spain, and this is state of Spain, Catalonia. So here you find, when I say peninsula, you know that this is Mediterranean Sea, right? The water that you can see here is of Mediterranean Sea. So remember, the important thing about Mediterranean Sea is that, of course, it is not mentioned in this article, but I would like to draw your attention here that the climate, right, of Mediterranean, or you can say the Mediterranean climate, is unique in itself. Whenever you are going through your basics of geography, then please keep this thing in mind. Mediterranean climate, it has a wet winter, right? Wet winter, WW, and it has dry summer. So remember this thing, and this sort of climate is helping them to have ample amount of citrus fruits. That's the reason, if you are watching some sort of cooking show, or if you are fond of cooking, then you will find that the lemons and lemons of this place of Italy, they are as big as like Indian apple, isn't it? And then, you know, all these other items, lots and lots of berries and things like that you find here. And that is one of the main reasons why you find countries like France and other countries are famous in Italy is famous for producing wine, isn't it? And Italian wines are quite famous because they have this sort of citrus fruits because of this Mediterranean climate. So keep this thing in mind. Right, now this Catalan parliament has said that it will go through for a sort of unilateral declaration of independence, and the way things are going on, it is not good at all, because now dialogue has failed. Both this central government and this Catalan parliament are not talking with each other at present. Article 155, which we talked about yesterday, it is basically about a sort of president's rule. If you find that things are not in line with the constitution, then you can apply Article 155 in different parts of Spain, and this is going to be applied in this region as well. So the central government will take over it. Of course, it won't be a sort of easy affair. It will face a tough fight from Catalan people, and now the things earlier on around 1970s, till that point of time, this country of Spain was under this Franco dictator Franco, and at that point of time, the youth, the young generation that we see today in Spain or in Catalan or in Barcelona, their grandfather and their parents fought against this dictatorship, right? So they are saying that what our grandfathers or grandparents fought for have been lost again to the Spanish. So this is a sort of emotional, this whole thing is taking a sort of emotional turn, which is very dangerous. But of course, a solution, this Europe is famous for democracy, isn't it? And so is Spain and other countries. So they should try to, eventually they have to talk, right? So rather than going for a full-fledged fight now and then going for a table talk, it is always wise to start things with talking, or you can say dialogue. Moving on to another item, this is about veto power and Security Council. Right now, the thing is, let's see the structure of Security Council. First of all, let me tell you that we have United Nations, right? United Nations armed sort of, or you can say the fighting hands of United Nations is United Nations Security Council, famously known as UNSC. Now it has 5 permanent members. You have China, then you have Russia, France, USA, and UK. The other thing that you can notice, of course, you have answered this thing because there was a question regarding it yesterday. So you know it, you know these countries, but I would like to add here that the roots why you have these countries as permanent members, it is because of the history of World War I and particularly World War II, right? So that is the reason why you find these countries having a sort of permanent, because this whole United Nations is a sort of byproduct, you may say, of World War II. So to avoid World War III, it was decided that let's form a sort of global body through which we can avoid these things. Anyways, so far, if you analyze the performance of United Nations, then you won't be that happy, because generally speaking, it has not been that successful in maintaining peace around the world. Anyways, coming back to this Security Council, you have 5 permanent members and then you have 10 non-permanent members elected for 2 years term. Now, veto power, you might have heard about this thing, veto. So what veto is all about? Now this, you have, as you know, that 15 members, out of which 5 are permanent. Now this permanent members have veto power. Now how it works, let me give you a practical example of Syria. We know that Syria is going through a turmoil since somewhere around 2011, and it became more severe during 2013. If I'm not making any sort of mistake, up to best of my knowledge, it was 2013 from where this whole Syria became a sort of inferno. Now the thing is, we know that USA, right, is of course part of this thing. USA, it was saying that let's attack Syria and let's remove Bashar al-Assad, who is democratically elected president of Syria. We know that USA is a very powerful country, and with the help of this United Nations Security Council, it was saying that let's attack it. But it was Russia, right? Again, a United Nations Security Council's permanent member. It said no, right? You cannot attack because it is backing up this thing. So because Russia denied attacking it, this Security Council can't do anything. Even if one member, if 4 members are saying yes, and if one member is saying no, you cannot go ahead with it. And to make it more sort of in practical world, what is happening, even if you have 100 and say for example 90 countries saying yes, let's go ahead with war on Syria, and if one United Nations Security Council member is saying no, then this UN cannot go. So you can imagine how powerful this countries are, this P5s are, right? So this is the main thing here. Now the thing is, for the longest period of time, if we go back to 1979, since 1979, India is trying its entry, India is trying its level best to get a permanent seat in United Nations Security Council. And now India has some strong points as well to claim for a membership of United Nations Security Council. First of all, the thing is that we are the biggest provider of troops when it comes to United Nations peacekeeping force, right? We are our boots, or you can say our personnel, are highest in number. We have worked very well in different parts of the world, particularly in Africa. The second thing is that we represent nearly 17% of world's population. So of course we need to have a sort of seat in this thing, isn't it? The third thing is that India has a backup of soft power. India has a huge amount of, you can say, soft power. That means there are many African countries, there are many Asian countries, there are many South American countries, there are many European countries as well that are supporting the candidature of India as a permanent member of United Nations Security Council, and there are various reasons why they are having a sort of a trust in India. The other thing is that we are also politically active. So these are some 4 basic points, right? When I say politically active, I'm talking, of course, about world politics. So these are 4 basic points, 4 pillars through which we can claim, we can easily see that we are capable of becoming one of these P5 members. So at present, America is saying that we are ready for expansion, but we won't be able, we are not happy, or we are not going to give veto power to India. This article is saying that we should take this opportunity, we should grab this opportunity now. Once we become a member of permanent, once we become a sort of permanent member, then in future we can of course ask for this veto power. And as you know, as I told you, that this United Nations and United Nations Security Council is a byproduct of this World War II. So we can clearly say that this organization is outdated, isn't it? It is not representing the reality of 21st century. So of course amendments are required, changes are required in this world body. And there are other countries as well. They are known as G4, right? Of course, India is part of this G4, and we are supporting candidature of each other. In G4, you have Germany, Japan, Brazil, and India, right? This forms G4, and all these countries are supporting each other. So we should grab this opportunity. Moving on to another item, this is about the gown and the bench. It is about the transparency in the selection of judges. Now recently, a couple of days ago, it was in news item that the collegium system decided that collegium system said that when we appoint any person as a sort of senior advocate, right? Now senior advocate, the benefits are, first of all, you will get huge amount of respect. Now let me break it down. Let's start with the scratch. Now senior advocates can be designated by the Supreme Court as well as the High Courts, right? First of all, the second point is that when one becomes a sort of senior advocate, then he can of course charge huge amount of fees for the cases, and the second thing is that he will get a huge amount of respect from the courts as well. Now the thing is, if we go back to 2014 and 2015, then we find that for the longest period of time, the appointment of judges is done by collegium system, right? You have CJI, and then you have 4 senior Supreme Court judges. So in total, this 5 form collegium, and this collegium decides the appointment and transfer of High Court judges and things like that. So the government came out with a constitutional amendment, National Judicial Appointment Commission, NJAC Act, and this was basically making this it provided a way for the executives, or you can say the government, will have a say in the appointment of judges. But Supreme Court's a constitution bench clearly declared this thing unconstitutional. So this is gone now. This 99th amendment of Constitution NJAC is rejected. Now till now, this senior advocate's appointment was done in a sort of opaque way, right? It was decided by the judges of Supreme Court and High Court, but now it has said that there should be a committee. The Supreme Court or the collegium said that there should be a sort of permanent committee. The members of this permanent committee are of course CJI. When we talk about Supreme Court senior advocate, then you have 2 senior most judges of Supreme Court, Attorney General, and then of course you know that when you talk about High Court, then you take Advocate General and things like that. So these are the things, and then there is also a talk of permanent secretariat, and the whole process will go through this. There will be a transparent process, interviews will be taken and things like that. Information will be kept in public domain. So this is more, you can say, democratic. You can say this is providing more transparency. And this article argues that the same thing should apply when it comes to appointment of judges of Supreme Court and High Courts. And this is a good thing that government can discuss with Supreme Court and bring out amended, or you can say a new version of National Judicial Appointment Commission. Economic growth and alternative view. This is talking about that we know that at present we are seeing a sort of slowdown in our economy, right? And this is creating a sort of panic in many people. Many people are not happy about it. But this article is arguing that rather than going for a rat race, right, or a cutthroat race of a double digit, right? Double digit growth means growth more than 10%, right? GDP growth per year, clocking more than 10%. So this when we are trying to achieve this double digit, we are of course damaging our environment, which is not good, because the things that we cannot measure, right, we cannot define the value of those things. And that's what is happening with our country and around the world as well, right? Fresh air is free of cost, but if you pollute them, if you don't know the cost of polluted air, till then you are never going to respect it. And as per World Bank, it is damaging. Pollution of air is costing 7.69% of our GDP due to various losses of health, and then we have to the life we lose, etc., etc. And all this sort of environmental damage in total, you can say that it is impacting somewhere around 5.7% of GDP. This is said by World Bank. So what we have to do is, if we are if we are heading ahead, or if the GDP growth is 5 to 6%, which is considered medium, right, or you can say a bit slow compared to what is expected nowadays, but this will keep a fine balance of environment. That's what this article is all about. Now, central government has appointed Dineshwar Sharma. We are heading in news items now, and I'll be very quick because we are running out of time. As you know that we were discussing many important articles today, so please help yourself with it, dear friends. I have of course highlighted important items here. Now, to sort out Kashmir issue, Dineshwar Sharma, who is an ex-IPS officer, he is appointed as a main man who will have a dialogue with the stakeholders in Jammu and Kashmir regarding national anthem being played in the cinema hall. Supreme Court has passed the ball to the government, and Attorney General said that it is necessary to infuse sort of uniformity in the diverse country. Paika, this is important for your Paika Bidroha or revolution. This is important because you may be asked question in your pre-examination, or even in fact in the mains examination on analysis sort of thing. Now, Paika Bidroh or Paika Rebellion of 1817 is being considered by the government as the first independence war, right? Not this 1856-7, this Mangal Pandey Lakshmi Bai's this war, right? So keep this in mind. You could be asked a question on this thing. And let me tell you that there were somewhere around 42 small conflicts took place before this 1857 Sepoy mutiny, which is registered in history. Bilkis Bano case, she was gang raped in 2002. She lost 7 of her family members, and the Supreme Court has asked Gujarat government to explain whether she is being provided with compensation or not. Modi and Ghani are going to talk on terror. President of Afghanistan is in India. He's going to come India he is going to arrive in India today. So of course they are going to chat about this terrorism, and Election Commission has explained that it is not working under the pressure of any political parties. In Syria, ISIS have killed many people, 116 civilians in 20 days, and 65 bodies have been recovered. So far, Paryatan Parva, it was inaugurated. The finale was inaugurated by Home Minister, and he has said that tourism has tremendous power and potential. It can turn our country into a super economic power. With this, dear friends, please help yourself with 3 questions that are here for you. Don't forget to subscribe, share. Do share this lecture, dear friends. I find many students asking me questions whether this thing is available, this Hindu analysis is available in English or not. This means that many of you are not sharing it. I would request, right, this is my humble request to all of you to please take out some time and do share these lectures with others as well. With this, don't forget to, if you have learned something, give us your like, pass your valuable comments and your answer. I am signing off for now. I will see you all soon. Till then, enjoy your studies. Jai Hind.